During our first week, I provided a general description on how collective behaviors are formed and evolved within organizations. I also highlighted the leader's role in guiding and evolving organizational behaviors. In this video lecture, we are going to discuss the formation and evolution of collective behavior in greater depth. To do this, it is important that we first review some elements that shape a company's dynamics and reality, things that we face on a daily basis and often take for granted. So let's take a look at some of these phenomena. Organizational goals. When we talk about organizational goals, we are primarily interested in how goals emerge from stakeholders' unique set of objectives through a bargaining process, how goals evolve over time, and how the company as a whole manages and responds to goals in order to address aspects including sales, market share, profit, and production levels. Here at CityU, the executive team sets strategic goals and actions periodically. When executives gather to renew the objectives and plans, each member expresses a distinct set of goals based on her or his perception of what needs to be done. After individuals present their unique goals, the committee engages in a bargaining process to narrow down the proposals and settle on a handful of objectives. Keep in mind that executives present goals based on many variables, such as competition, policies, the availability of resources, and the institution's financial well-being at a given time. Obviously, these factors change over time, and this is why goals evolve as well. Bounded rationality. Bounded rationality is the idea that in decision-making, rationality of individuals is limited by the information they have, the cognitive limitations of their minds, also known as biases, and the finite amount of time they have to make a decision. All these constraints could lead to distortion, manipulation, and misinterpretation of information, and we see examples of this all the time within different companies. A sample case would be how Bank of America's executives decided to buy Merrill Lynch based on their biased decision-making and an overly optimistic perception that was far from reality. Well, this deal turned out to be an epic merger disaster, costing Bank of America $50 billion and counting. Quasi-resolution of conflict. A company can be considered a coalition of individuals with different goals and unequal power that influence organizational objectives to varying degrees. Obviously, there will be conflicts among the goals of various members, such as production, sales, and inventory. Looking at many organizations, we can identify 3 common methods that individuals and departments employ to resolve conflicts. Local rationality, which refers to how organizational units, such as marketing and HR, solve conflicts with respect to their domain and boundaries of knowledge. Acceptance level decision rules, which implies solving conflict using regulations that satisfy collective interest rather than being optimal, such as a university's policy that mandates marketing the institution as a whole rather than marketing its individual academic programs and degrees. And sequential attention to goals, which signifies resolving conflict by attending to goals in a well-defined order. In other words, resolution using prioritization. Uncertainty avoidance, or UA. It reflects the degree of comfort with uncertain situations and the extent to which efforts have been made to minimize or avoid these situations. Managers in high UA cultures tend to depend extensively on systematic rules and regulations. Extensive efforts are made to plan for and even control the future. On the other hand, members of low UA companies are more comfortable with unstructured and unpredictable situations. It might be a good idea for you to think about how much your company avoids uncertainty and how this degree of tolerance has influenced the performance. Satisficing behavior. This is a decision-making strategy that aims for a satisfactory or adequate result rather than the optimal solution. This is because aiming for the best solution may necessitate needless expenditure of time, energy, and resources. So, simply said, satisficing behavior is a fancy name for people settling for a good enough option or decision, also known as meeting the minimum requirements. For example, it makes sense to find the lowest price contractor for a simple project, but not if you spend months to find the optimal price and risk not meeting the project's deadline. More often than not, a reasonably priced contractor as opposed to the lowest priced one will do the job just fine. Problematic search. When stakeholders realize that their performance is below expectations, they begin to search for a solution to the problem, which usually turns out to be making changes in order to restore performance to the anticipated level. So, we can say that firms learn from their performance feedback. All these phenomena and elements that I just shared with you help us better understand the dynamics that shape the reality and performance of all types of organizations. From this information, we can define a company as a coalition between various individuals and groups, such as managers, workers, stockholders, and suppliers with limited rationality and decision-making capacity. So, organizational members with a variety of information, characteristics, goals, and expectations participate in goal setting, decision-making, and of course, in bargaining efforts to resolve conflicts that result from differences in individual priorities. Informed by this depiction of the organization, we can define organizational decisions as cognitive products that emerge from the interaction of stakeholders with distinct and conflicting knowledge and perspectives in an attempt to generate a balance between internal aspirations and capacities and external demands. Now that we have a good understanding of some key phenomena that shape organizational life and dynamics, let's take a look at how behaviors are formed and evolved in companies. This knowledge will enable you as future managers and leaders to better engineer and guide the formation of collective behaviors that align strongly with the objectives of your company. This ability is one of the most valuable features of competent managers in the modern world.